What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Jack Ramsays pregame show. I'm your host, Danny Mering, joined as always by Mr. Beaver Believer himself, Brandon Sprague. Well, he found his internet, ladies and gentlemen. He says his internet went out during the Detroit Pistons game. I'm calling him a liar. I'm saying that he didn't just actually want to watch that game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to watch that game. I thought I said that in the pregame show. But, yeah, I would say 20 minutes after I got off the pregame.
Good choice.
I got a text. I'm like, what is this? And it says, your service is out right now. And hope to restore your power by 11 to 11:30. And I'm like, awesome. So not only did I not get to watch the Blazer Piston ugly ass game, I also didn't get to watch the Warriors and Suns.
Oh, that's right. And that was a stellar game.
Yeah, Steph struggled, I saw, but didn't get to watch it. Thank God that they flexed the Laker-Clipper game out on
Bridges,
Friday.
Baby.
Yeah.
Bridges.
Yep. What a steal. 4 years, 90.
When he got that deal, I was like, he got it. They got him for $25 million less than they should have.
Yep.
Keely says, I definitely don't plan to watch this game just there for the pod. Well, number one, we appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Secondly, I don't think this is going to be a bad game. I actually think this is going to be a relatively fun game. It's just like a bunch of fun athletic players. I do.
Fun game.
Think about this.
Okay.
You've got Ant, which you're already at that point in time, you've got my attention. I'm going to go, oh, hello. More Anthony Simons.
Okay.
Counter argument to that, obviously, is that also means more C.J. McCollum. And by God, there was too much bleeping C.J. McCollum last game. Way too much for my liking.
Yeah.
So, there's that. But obviously, they're going to take on the San Antonio Spurs tonight, because I don't think I mentioned that yet, because I'm a true professional. And in that regard, the San Antonio Spurs are kind of a weird team coming into tonight. They have a good defense, middling. They're 6-13 on the season. Their expected wins is 8.3, so they've had some bad luck go their way according to the Pythagorean win spectrum. They are a team, Mr. Sprague, without an identity. When you think of San Antonio Spurs and you can't say Greg Popovich or any other historical Spur, what do you think?
Well, I think that's the problem. I've seen 2 quarters of this team this year, and I'll tell you the 2 quarters that I saw, I was done. I have not watched anything since. They have had the problem that they've always had since they lost Kawhi, and that is they just don't have a dude.
Yeah.
They've got some players. They
had dudes with DeMar and LaMarcus, but they're just longer in the tooth. Just longer in the tooth.
This team, even when they had DeRozan in LA, like, yeah, those are some guys. I'll give you that. But, like, overall, you knew that team wasn't going to win anything. And, this is a product of the roster. I mean, is it not? I mean,
no, I just love how we just managed to work that in naturally. That was actually pretty good.
Well, I'd say San Antonio is one of those teams that, like, people either loved or hated them when they were reigning supreme.
Mm-hmm.
And since they lost Kawhi and they lost Timmy and Tony and et cetera, they have no identity. Like,
no, they
have nothing.
They're kind of like I don't want to say a puppy mill, but that's kind of what they are. Like they get some good young players and they have the opportunity to flip them somewhere else for a profit. That's kind of what they are. Like just looking at this, like Dejounte Murray, I like him. Fun player. He's kind of like poor man's Jaw.
Yes.
Gets downhill, super wiry, strong, explosive. Keldon Johnson, big-bodied wing, does some things, made a late appearance for Team USA at the Olympics.
I'd say Olympic gold medalist.
Certainly a skilled player. Thad Young would fit perfect in Portland. Would be fantastic. I've wanted Thad here for a decade. Devin Vassell. Surprisingly, his scoring profile looks almost exactly like Anthony Simons. It's terrifying. Jakob Poeltl may be the most underrated big in the league. Does 3 things really well. 1, screens people's brains out. It's absurd what he does. He's just a truck. 2, he finishes really well around. 3, he's just, again, supremely strong and rebounds around the rim incredibly well. Like, you don't win 50-50 balls with him.
Danny, he's not even the most underrated big on his team.
Who would you say is the most underrated big on his team?
Drew Eubanks.
There it is. And Drew Eubanks, like every other San Antonio Spur, I wanted to bring this in right now.
Yeah.
This is insane. Let me flip our little my little stats box here. Again, thank you all for coming here to the pregame show. Like, rate, review, subscribe, help us grow the show. I need to there we go. Matchup to watch. And I'm gonna get to actually I don't want the matchup to watch. I want my other one. Come on. I want my what to watch for, and if I put it in the right spot, it would actually
I'll say
get
this
there.
too
There
while
it
you're
is.
looking for that. What I've been most surprised of the last 2 years, I'm kind of surprised because they bottomed out when Robinson broke his arm, and Duncan was
That they haven't done it again.
Yes, they knew they needed to do it back in the 90s. I'm stunned with Pop, and
I think it's because Pop was younger.
Yeah,
back
maybe
then.
that's what it is.
Like I'm not gonna go for the full rebuild again, because if anything.
But he's had some dudes in these last couple drafts that if you would have hit the restart, you could have maybe had a guy maybe you feel a little younger.
Yes, no, that's exactly it. And that's where, when I look at that, you would think, imitation and being the sincerest form of flattery, you would look at Golden State.
Yeah.
Which San Antonio's always marched to their own drum. Perfectly fine, because they can fall back on that. They've been wildly successful. But you would think they would look at that, especially him and R.C. Buford, and go, I wonder. Should we just bail out of everything? They tried the soft reset with LaMarcus and DeMar. Mm-hmm. That didn't work. Now they're kind of in this like actual purgatory where the Blazers are not. They still got a couple high-end guys where they sell if they really wanted to reset. I'm not advocating for that. Jesus, before everybody loses their mind. If they wanted to sell off everything, they would bottom out and they would have a truckload of assets behind it.
Sure.
But the Spurs, and this is kind of going to the point I was going to make here, we're talking about what to watch for in tonight's game. Brandon, they have 5 guys in the 90th percentile or higher in mid-range field goal attempt percentage. This is a team that flies in the face of analytics. They're just like, I don't care.
They are allergic to shooting three-pointers. They are dead last in three-point attempts per game.
Those guys, that collective group, are in the 0th, 5th, 54th, 7th, and 18th percentiles in three-pointers attempted. That would Bryn Forbes is the only one in that group who's middle of the pack. And then you have Devin Vassell's in the 60th percentile, and then you have Doug McDermott in the 66th percentile. Every other person save those three is 48th percentile lower, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are in the 20th percentile or lower.
I was texting with a buddy, and he was asking if I wanted to go to this game tonight because I guess tickets are $6 or something. And I said, nah, no interest. I'm doing the pre, and we might be doing watch stuff, so it's like I'm kind of eliminating going to the game. But anyways, we were texting, and I thought he said something really funny. He goes, "You don't want to see the NBA bison?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "They're like a dead bison out on the range. You've got a pack of wolves, you got hyenas, you got all these animals that are waiting to feast on him, but they're also afraid of fighting each other. So they're all at a standstill." I feel like that's what the Spurs are. All these NBA teams are like, Bryn Forbes would not be a bad little rotational player. Thad Young, Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray. Like,
there's a bunch of dudes on this team that you could slot into 3, 4, 5 on your team, and you'd be thrilled.
They're role play. It's just a team of role guys that everybody around the league, I feel like, is waiting to go, hey, you guys selling yet?
You have the fire sale? Come on.
Right.
Let's go. And that is my thing to watch tonight.
Mm-hmm.
This team, and I called this out on Blazers Edge. I'll read this word for word.
Okay.
And where did it go? There we go. The Spurs present an opportunity for the Blazers in that they're better than the Detroit Pistons, but not dangerous enough to really inflict long-lasting pain. And then I liken the Spurs, shout out Manu Ginobili and the Snake, think of handling snakes. There's various levels of venom. You don't want to get bitten by the Spurs snake, but you'll survive. However, let it bite you over and over and over again, well, it's your funeral. Basically, this is the team where it's like, you let it bite you once, you're like, shit. Okay, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to let Thad Young get loose. Take care of business. But if you let Thad Young get loose, and you let Devin Vassell get loose, and Dougie McBucket starts getting loose, and you're coming out of there with snake bites on your neck and snake bites in your face, and you're going, shit, they're hitting from everywhere. Guess what? You're going to die.
I mean, look,
don't mess around.
Yeah, they just beat Boston and Washington. They were on a 6-game losing streak, I think. They won those 2. Those are impressive
and those
wins.
are good. Like, Boston has talent, and Washington plays good basketball.
Yes, those are very good wins for who San Antonio is. It's just you saying that out loud, I think makes me feel even worse if Portland is to lose tonight. Like, well, what happened? We let Thad Young get loose. What happened?
Okay.
Well, Devin Vassell.
If I told you Thad Young got loose in any game over the last 10 years against the Portland Trailblazers, would you be surprised?
No, I would not be surprised.
He has surpassed Beno Udrih as like the vice president of the Blazer Killer fan club. He is just one of those dudes who every time he plays Portland, you're like, God, he's just a solid pro, man.
Yeah.
It's just.
But you're also naming players that, like, not our listeners, but I think if you were to poll general sports fan, like, oh, here we go. Here's a good one. My co-host, the NBA is not his favorite sport, but he follows the Blazers. He's going to see this team for the first time tonight. If you asked my co-host, is Devin Vassell a real player in the NBA?
No, 100%.
It'd be a coin flip of whether he says yes or no. He would have no clue.
Keita Bates-Diop.
It's a team made of names that sound like they could be players. Or
He'd know Jakob Poeltl because it's Poeltl the Turtle. Like that's what would reign supreme. Like,
right. But if I said Trey Jones, you'd go, oh, that could be an NBA player. It could be an NFL player. Yeah. You wouldn't know where to go with something. Lonnie
Trey
Walker,
Jones,
the fourth.
Sure, absolutely. He's the cornerback for the Detroit Lions.
Right.
And you say that, and you're like, shit, is that? Like, for just a split second. But that's, and I don't
Josh Primo.
Josh Primo definitely played for the Lions. That's 100%. Definitely played for the Lions.
Yeah.
But I say all of this is not like a denigrating remark at the Spurs. Like, they've got talent. They don't have a lot of top-end talent, but they don't have crappy talent. Like, they've got a bunch of good dudes, and this Portland team has shown unequivocally that a group of dudes can beat them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think the point spread tells us that. It opened at 3, and I was like, what?
That got bet down real quick.
Man.
Vegas is like, oh, shit. What
are we doing here?
With that, we'll get back into the matchups, and we'll get to the story of the night, I should say. Damian Lillard is out against the Spurs. MRI confirmed abdominal tendinopathy. For those of you who are longtime watchers of the show, listeners, consumers of our content, by long time, I mean 3 whole months.
Our long run here.
First of all, thank you. We love you,
yes,
the OGs.
We do.
If you're new here, we love you just as much. Actually, more. But no, it's something you and I have. I mean, I need like a proverbial bell to ring. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, and this isn't like me like talking about, oh, look at us, we're right. It was literally the entire world looking at Damian Lillard and going, yeah, it didn't look right.
Yes. Outside of a few, most people watching were like, there's something not right with Dame.
And you could say whatever it wants, but it doesn't look.
Well, to me, there's kind of 2 little stories looming from the announcement today. That
you want to talk about the tweet or
the tweet
from Phillips's pregame presser?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was hinting at is, one, what's the timeline here? Because it sure as hell doesn't feel like it's 10 days. And
I'll pull it up word for word.
The big S word, like basically saying at this point.
Sean Eichen was at pregame media availability for Chauncey Billups, and Sean had this on Twitter. Chauncey Billups says Damian Lillard will be spending a lot of time resting over these 10 days, but he hopes they'll be able to get him a little bit of basketball activity. There's been no talk of surgery at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
When you bring it up without bringing it up,
it tells me it's close to potentially happening if things don't change drastically.
Just saying.
That's how the league communicates everything. They give you a little crumb and you go, what? Why did you
remember
mention
this?
that?
Remember this morning when the Pelicans Bucks game was taken off of national TV and swapped out for a Laker game? It's weird. Yeah. An hour and a half later, Zion Williams had a foot complication.
Yeah. It's those subtle things that you go, what?
If you're just watching it, everything gets telegraphed.
I know.
It honestly, the NFL is the best, I think, about keeping their secrets. The NBA might be the worst.
Oh, I would go college football 1. Because college football,
they have more of them because you have so many teams. Probably.
Well, no, they don't allow any access because they're.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Coaches don't have to be like, hey, you can watch. They'll show up to a game and be like,
CBA. Yeah.
Kayvon Thibodeau's not playing. You're like, was he injured? I didn't even know about that. You're like, what?
Yeah, Oregon's shutting off their practices like Area 51 was one of my favorite stupid things. Meanwhile, you look down at USC and you got Will Ferrell in the field running naked. So just
it's a disgusting image.
Listen, it is what it is.
What were these? His balls?
Yeah. Sam Cassell, baby. The fact that they got fined for that, that's just so dumb. But yeah, Dame's going to be out for 10 days. That'll make him miss 4 more games, so including tonight. And if you look at it, there's
tough games.
There's 3 days after that, too. So it's a whole 2 weeks plus the time that he missed from Utah? No, post-Utah. Detroit out.
Yep.
And then they reevaluate him. And Brandon, when they reevaluate him 3 days after that, do you know what day that'll be?
No.
Do you think maybe it may or may not be December 15th?
Ooh,
Is that when all other players become available for trade?
That it is.
Could my third eye be firing and saying that perhaps Damian Lillard's taking a little bit of time to force some action leading into that deadline, much like LeBron James once did?
I like the theory. I like the eye. I'm going to close the eye.
I'm opening the third eye because I stole it from Heiken and
okay. Can you lift your hat for a second?
You gonna poke it?
I'm gonna close it now because our general manager is incapable of doing anything that matters.
And on that front, yes, folks, he's probably coming back.
Yeah, it's looking like that's what's happening.
It is what it is.
That's what we've been saying for 7 years.
In other injury news, oh boy, where's my other box at? Nas. Oh, I downloaded the wrong one or I grabbed the wrong one. Let's find out. There we go. There it is. Out versus Spurs. MRI confirms ankle sprain, out at least a week. Talked to a few people. Nas was feeling great, actually, after the Utah game.
Mm-hmm.
And he got on the plane and it went... Turns out going to 30,000 feet with a sprained ankle is not typically good for it.
It's always the worst fear, I think, of for those guys that went on the road and they tweak an ankle. If it tweaks the wrong way.
You want to stay an extra night.
Yeah, exactly. You want to stay an extra night instead of just going straight into the elevation. And your leg's like, hey, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised they don't have onboard hyperbaric chambers for these guys yet.
That's a sneaky good point.
Genuinely, I've wondered that, injury management stuff when you go, especially if you let's say you're leaving New Orleans and you end up going to Denver.
Yeah.
Below sea level to you're flying at 40,000 feet.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a long flight where you're up at max elevation for the entire duration of the flight. I'm like, seems like making that flight, every now and then, or every NBA team ever.
Yeah,
you want to avoid that. I don't know.
Well,
it's a very stupid, minimal thing, but yeah, Nas is out. I'm frantically updating. Norm, there was no update on Norm outside of him being questionable. Obviously, we are not at the arena, but I had been texting people all night, and everybody's kind of like, So,
yeah, Chauncey doesn't even know. Chauncey's not sure. Said he looked good at shoot around, but he's not sure if he's playing.
And the thing is, I don't think has Chauncey held anything yet? Has he been wait to the very last second? I don't think he's done that yet. Terry
didn't he have one with Dame where he was we'll see what he does?
That one was a legitimate we'll see what he does, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was they weren't sure. They weren't genuinely talking about setting him down. But with Norm, I feel like Chauncey just doesn't really mess with that stuff. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But, so, one starter for sure, maybe 2. I have heard no changes in the starting lineup yet. So, Ant, CJ, Snell, Cove, and Nurk.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. You didn't really get to see much of it.
I didn't get to see the game. I did see that DSJ got some minutes. Ben McLemore obviously had a big game.
Here's the great news, Brandon. The Portland Trailblazers, they have a lot of guards.
Yeah. Yep.
If there is a team that can take a guard injury, it is the Portland Trailblazers, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, let's get Ben McLemore to have back-to-back 17-point games. I'm all in.
He was on fire. He was actually, like, I know you didn't get to see the game. He was hitting everything. He took some heat checks late that kind of made his stat line not look quite as glorious because.
Well, you have to take the heat check.
He took one, oh my God, running, falling, fading, leaning. Like, am I still that hot? And let it go. And it was like, nah, you're not. But looked like he had buried, I think, 3 out of 5 at that point, 3 out of 4 at that point. And I was like, you go ahead and have that one. Like, his jumper's beautiful.
Oh, he's got a beautiful looking stroke. He shoots it exactly how a video would tell you to shoot it.
Yeah, and it looks like, this is gonna sound corny, I don't care. It looks sexy. Like, it's just soft when he lets it go. Like there's some people who with hard jumpers.
Like Ray Allen. Ray Allen was sexy, man.
Yes. Oh. And, Martell Webster.
Very good one.
Gorgeous jumper.
Yeah.
Al Farouk Aminu, not. That's hard snap. Ronnie Brewer, who actually had this broken arm and had to shoot sideways. The Ball brothers, all of them shoot like donkey piss. I hate their jumpers. They're awful.
Sean Marion.
Marion's was so ugly, it was beautiful. Just mad at the ball. Get out of his hands as quick as possible. But
might be a hot take. You know who a polarizing one is? How did you feel about Larry Bird's stroke? We know it was wet. What did you think about the look of it?
His jumper basically said "F you" every time he let it go.
Because he kind of reminds me of a guy that's
like an arrogant jumper.
Piss out of the golf ball on a drive.
It's an arrogant jumper. That's what it was. Because I think he built his jumper around the premise of being able to like comfortably leave his hand up to talk shit afterwards.
I mean, that wouldn't shock anybody, I think, from all the stories.
But that's what makes me think that, because you watch him, like, it just stays there, and he's like, he ain't got shit. Keeps going.
He cocked it so high and kind of so far back that he's able to shoot and then walk away holding up number 1 in a 3-point contest.
I mean, it is what it is. Min Mom says, is this our Dame surgery year? If we really wasted his best years? I don't think we're there yet. It's again.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think we're there. Right. I don't think we're there. This is starting to creep into my mind, though, in the frustration of what this team has been.
Of everything.
Right. He's going to be 32 next summer, right?
Yeah. 32, 33 is typically when high usage guards start to decline.
And look, I know Chris Paul is doing his thing.
There's a reason why he's in Phoenix.
Yes.
Fountain of youth, ladies and gentlemen.
I am starting to kind of like, that's a thing for me. I didn't want to get to this point where he starts to creep up a little bit slowly into the 30s and still doesn't quite have the help.
He's not Derrick Rose in the sense of like his entire game is defined, or Westbrook, where your entire game is defined by athleticism.
No, he'll play a long time because he can shoot.
But how much space will he be able to clear? How many minutes will he be able to play? How much of a beating will he be able to take? Like Dame and LeBron are both starting different levels of wear and tear, but Dame is just now starting to show really any wear and tear for his career.
Norm is available.
There we go. Norm is available.
Hold on, just tweeted it. Team announced that Norm Powell has been upgraded from questionable to available tonight.
Cool. I wonder what that means. I guess they'll start Norm and he'll come off the bench.
Or Norm will come off the bench. Who knows?
No.
Why mess with a good thing? You just wax the Pistons.
I hate you so much right now, and I love you. I wanted to punch you and kiss you at the same time. I'm like, God, that's a level of just backhanded stupidity right there. I love it. So there you go. There's your Norm news, live breaking news. So that's going to change the starting lineup at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something tonight. As much as we talk about the what to watch for, I wanted to make sure we got in. God, I really need to relabel these. Otherwise, I end up chasing. I want to have a new kind of segment here, in a matchup to watch. And this is something I was actually really interested in. It's two really strong dudes, Jakob Poeltl and Jusuf Nurkic. Nurk got his ass kicked by Andre Drummond, and he got his ass kicked by Rudy Gobert.
Mm-hmm. Now,
here's the difference. When it wasn't Rudy Gobert that was there, Jusuf Nurkic capitalized. Jakob Poeltl plays like I think Jusuf Nurkic wants to be played. Super physical on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Gobert is so long that he alters, the trajectory of the sun's ray beams. Like it's insane. Jakob, while a good shot blocker, is not that kind of long where he bothers everyone's like general, vibes. So this is where I want to see Yusuf Nurkic. See how that matchup goes. Get physical, and we've seen some. That's what you did miss in the Detroit game was Nurk absolutely punked Isaiah Stewart on like 3 different drop steps where he just knocked him into oblivion.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and Isaiah Stewart, not a small kid.
No, he's a very large human being.
About 260, but God, this is gonna be a dick move. I'm gonna do it anyways. He knows how to use his strength and his weight and his build significantly more than say like a Zach Collins.
Sure.
I didn't want it to sound like a dick move, but it did because Zach just didn't know how to use his size when he was here. And for those wondering, he's not active tonight.
I was gonna say, how disappointed are we? We're not getting a Zach Collins revenge game tonight.
I can tell you who's excited about it. Neil O'Shea.
Oh,
out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
Do you think
nobody talks about the number 10 pick in the draft from 4 years ago, not being on the team?
Yikes! Again, as many jokes I'm making, I hope the kid gets better. I don't need.
Is he scheduled to play this year? How's that looking?
Some people have said, I think in the Reddit comments and stuff like that, like post Christmas, New Year, and I'm like,
God, we've heard that so many times.
I'm like, and that's the thing is like, I would quite literally go until the All-Star break at bare minimum, and I'd probably go closer to March, give him the full year.
I look back. I was looking for some audio on Zach Collins, what Neil was saying prior to the, when he was going in with the pick. And I saw a quote that got brought up from last year, and it basically said, I'm not dealing with any setbacks in my foot injury. And I think it was 3 weeks after that quote, they were like, he's done for the year. And it was like, what?
Yeah. And not funny, but the thing was they knew. So, again, the way the organization has handled injury announcements has always been very, very dumb, but that is what it is. Steve says Poeltl, seriously underrated defender and high PER. No, Jakob Poeltl is a very serviceable player in the NBA. Yep. You got to find the right fit for him to maximize him, but if he's on your team, I don't think you're in a bad position. He's a good player. I think he's kind of a poor man Steven Adams. Super strong, works really hard, in the right places at the right time, knows what he can do, and gets it done. So, I
like that comp.
You like that?
Well, I liked Jakob Poeltl when he was at Utah. I didn't know how he was going to be in the NBA, and I feel like he's kind of found himself in San Antonio.
Yeah, well, tracks. I'll go with that. Ryan says that they said some horrible things about you on Tuesday when you weren't here.
Who did?
The chat.
Oh,
they did
about how much better it was.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was bad, and it's okay.
Sorry, that's what my dad said. That's why I didn't hang around most of my life.
Jeez. If I could, I'd slap you like 3 times tonight.
That's what my dad said, and then he left.
You're killing me.
I'm sorry.
Awkward silence, depressing. That's just awesome.
That's right up my alley, man. That's why my most underrated favorite movie is Death to Smoochie with Robin Williams and Edward Norton.
God, that tracks like perfectly. Good Lord.
A lot of language that you no longer use in society in that movie.
Nope.
Wow.
Clay Wilson hopped in, and I'll use this to tip to the trade discussion that made people very mad today on Twitter.
Made people mad? I thought it was a good trade. I would take that trade in a minute.
Well, that's, I think, some people's problem with it. But Clay Wilson asks, is P.J. Washington for C.J. trade kind of available? So I actually talked to in this. There's a couple different veins of like, there's the Ben Simmons trade that makes a ton of sense. We've talked that to death. One of the things that I've looked at is CJ for Gordon Hayward. That's
okay.
Lesser.
How's that work in Charlotte, you think, though, with those guys?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's a year less on the deal.
I meant more like, would Charlotte want that?
Here's where I would go with this, and this is why I kind of walk this path a little bit. What is the one position that they need help at?
At Charlotte?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the 2.
2 and the 5.
Yeah.
What do the Blazers have available?
2 and a 5.
So while they maybe aren't getting the best fit, I still think they could slide the Melo up to like a 2-3, or they can put Oubre in there. You can have CJ be bad defensively, but you could have Nurkic at your 5. Again, it's not a perfect fit. It's not a perfect deal, but that's part of one of the things I was kind of like steering towards. Like, okay, if you can't get Ben Simmons, who are the other playmaking creators that are out there that can play 2-3-4, and I lean more towards the 3-4 more than the 2-3. And Gordon just kept coming up. I'm like, he's still like, even with his injury issues, he's like, near 25-5 when he's that guy. Right now, I think he's like 18-6-4 or something like that. So still a good player. But I say all this to say, like, I talk people just kind of assess value and understand where things are and what teams may or may not be looking at to do at the deadline. And the thing that I keep coming back to is I think Covington's probably gone, and I think Nurkic is probably gone before CJ is. And in that vein, Kevin Pelton suggested a 1-for-1 swap basically between Covington and Bagley, but Bagley being younger and Portland getting a protected first-round pick that likely turns into 2 seconds. But you get some draft capital back into Covington, and you get a flyer on a young player. Yeah. And when I first saw that this morning, here's the thing. When you talk about Neil Olshey making deals, does he trade guys who have years left on their contract?
No. Not usually.
Does he love redraft players?
Yes.
Okay.
He wants to do a reclamation project. Be like, I like
every
this
lottery
guy.
pick ever.
Yeah. Yep.
What is the one team that he deals the most with?
Oh. I'm trying to think.
It's Sacramento.
Is it Sacramento?
I think there's 6 or 7 different transactions.
Can you name me a couple players? I'm blanking on that real quick. I'm not
Ariza,
doubting you. Ariza, okay.
Collins.
Okay. Yeah, with the draft. Yeah, that's true.
And then there's the Swanigan deal.
Biggie.
Yeah. And then
hope he's doing
for Scal, and I think there's like 2 other ones that were earlier.
Okay.
On.
Oh, yeah, Scal. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
There's
that's
been
fair.
a lot.
Yeah. Little moves, but still, it's the team he clearly calls the most.
Yes. Relationships, right?
Yeah.
While I'm not a huge Bagley guy, he's got issues in Sacramento. He clearly wants out. His dad basically hates the franchise, and there's probably a reason why. And then we had the press release of, his agent basically saying, "Why are you benching my client?" It's a toxic place for both parties. I don't think I'm stretching this too far when I was saying that there's not quite that bad of a relationship, but I would say Cubs probably worn out his welcome here.
I've heard some noise. It's not like the most major of noise, but it's like, Let me ask you though on that. Like, so if that's the deal, my stance. I'm kind of at this point like where sure, I guess swing. Let's see if it works. You don't worry though about losing what Cov does.
Oh no, you're gonna. It's an issue.
You're gonna be losing.
You start
some
Nance.
Stuff. Right.
You 100% you're starting Nance at that point. Bagley's coming off their bench as your offensive guy. Maybe he profiles better alongside Zeller. I don't know. And they're actually linking some more stuff here in the chat as far as the Kings, but I forgot Giles and Harkless, and actually Gary Trent Jr. is part of a pick that they bought. So
I totally forgot about Giles and Harkless.
There's just a ton of lines you can draw with the Kings.
They're our G League affiliate.
They basically are. But the whole point of this move was that it would be part of something else. So that first-round pick you got back, or redirecting Bagley, or the shifting of salary because he's an expiring deal, so you can figure it out, match whatever.
Right.
And I keep getting to the point where Portland has so much money committed to Dame, CJ, and Norm, $91 million, that they need some RFA status and stuff so they can go over the cap, so they can have bird rights to re-sign guys. So you target a guy like Bagley, sure. Again, Kevin Pelton came up with it. I just used that as kind of a trigger point. And there's a reason why I've targeted Mo Bamba. Outside of Bamba being a guy who I like, a guy who when he was drafted is the guy that I was like, I think he's going to be a pretty damn good player. Took him a little while. Then he got COVID. Mm-hmm. Probably surrounded himself with the wrong people. He was
very raw. I mean, he had some great things, the athleticism, the length, but he's also very raw when he came out of Texas.
Very raw, and again, probably surrounded by the wrong people. And then going to Orlando, that's really never going to help you. So it's kind of, it is what it is. But not necessarily more importantly, fit-wise, he's a rim-running, rim-protecting 7-footer who can play 30 minutes a night, who I think profiles well enough defensively to hang with most centers in the league. He's not too small to get played off the floor. Like, he's a strong kid. Like, that's my difference between him and, say, a Christian Wood, who I like Christian Wood. I think he's probably a better and more skilled player. But if you're talking about optimizing fit around Damian Lillard, and again, a trade for Ben Simmons, I'm thinking, okay, I want a guy, a big who doesn't need high usage, who can step out, spread the floor, and knock down shots.
Yes, yeah.
So a Miles Turner, a Sabonis, not a Sabonis because his 3-point game isn't great. But again, a Bamba, a Turner, a Wood, one of those guys. But here's the thing. Wood's better, but he's also a little bit smaller. Turner's better, but he costs significantly more. So you look at Bamba, who's making the back end of his rookie deal at $7.5 million. Yusuf Nurkic is making 12. It's almost like that amount gets you directly under the tax.
Yes, it would, and that matters a lot to this team.
And if you have an extra first-round pick that you got in a deal for Marvin Bagley, if you needed it to grease the deal, even though the Portland Trailblazers already traded Mason Plumlee for Yusuf Nurkic and a first-round pick because Nurkic was in a place that they wanted to get him out of there, as good as Bamba is or isn't playing, that same pressure may be there is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I was going to ask you on Bamba because I know you're pretty big on him, and I'll admit, like, you kind of opened my eyes a little bit. He's having a good year. Do you think Orlando's in that position, though?
They just gave Wendell Carter the money.
Well, I know. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But the difference, I think, too, is Nurkic, Jokic, and I know Carter and Bamba are basically kind of the same in a lot of ways, but they're also a little different. So I'm just curious.
They're different players. There's no doubt about that. But you can't pay two bigs the money, right?
Yeah.
But what you could do, I don't know if you should, but you could turn Nurk into a high-end backup.
Oh, good luck with that. Why did he leave Denver?
Again, I don't think you should.
You're playing with fire at that point.
But you also might be able to turn him into a third team, like to Charlotte, redirect him there for one of their other guards or whatever. So that was the reasoning behind that, because I saw everybody asking all this over and over and over again. Eric says, what is your dream Blazer lineup with Dame?
Oh, God.
I mean,
your
dream? So put what? KD out there? I don't know. KD, Giannis?
Okay. Well, let's not talk about things that could have happened, actually.
Yeah. Isn't that terrifying to think that those two guys could be Trailblazers?
I love that you named two guys that Portland had a position to draft on.
Terrifying stuff. Let's get into tonight's sweet gambling line. And where did I see? This is what I get, man. There we go. Boo-da-boo, boo-da-boo. And of course, I didn't grab the right line again. I got it if you want it.
I
got it. I grabbed the wrong graphic. I got to make sure I go through and delete the old ones. And I'm just, Jacked up line of the night. Blazers by 5 at -110. Is it still there?
Is that -110?
Was it -110 on Blazers by 5?
I thought, on -5, yeah.
Okay, it's now been bet down to 4.5, a little hooky, and it's at 115.
I'm biting.
Gonna nibble?
You know what? I'm gonna be the trout in the lake. You're giving me a little power bait. I smell it. I'm going up to it. I'm biting, and I'm gonna.
You getting that cheese power bait?
Look, I know what I said the pregame for Detroit. I thought they were gonna murder that team. Not even close.
The Spurs are a better team than the Pistons. Like, they have viable NBA vets.
But I think because people don't see a star, and the record, they go, well, this team is this and that. They don't shoot the three ball, but we've talked about this before. Teams seem to find their three ball most of the time when they play Portland.
If the Spurs find their three ball,
it's over. It's a wrap. Like, they're a good mid-range team, as you highlighted. They're an awful three-pointing team. I'm going to take it because I said to myself when I saw those points, why is that line? And it was 3 when I checked it, 3.5. I said, why is that line so low? I'm taking it. I think Vegas sees a letdown spot here. You're throwing Norman.
There's going to be some regression and some ascension. Like, they're going to get better on the road, and they're going to suck more at home.
Yes, you're not going to go 1-40 everywhere.
Again, you're going to find that they're going to ramp up big time on the road. Like, they are not going to be the worst team in the NBA They might be on the road, but they are not going to consistently profile as that. They're going to figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it is what it is. Simon says, hey, Blazers family from New Zealand. Hey, shout out the Kiwis.
Yeah.
We'll be in PDX December to January to see my wife's family. Which Blazers game would you recommend I try to get into early January? Hawks, Heat, Cavs, Kings.
Ooh, Hawks, Heat, Cavs.
My first gut reaction is to say Heat.
Do you want to see a win or do you want to see a team beat Portland
That was
down?
my thought, because the Heat, Bam should be back by then.
Yeah.
And that team should clamp the ever-living hell out of Portland.
That is an awful matchup for Portland.
But the Hawks?
I was going to say, if you want excitement and a possibility of a win while watching another player on another team cook you, the Hawks are a really good option.
Hawks are a really fun watch, and they stop playing defense.
Yes, they don't give a shysters about
I've
you.
said it like 6 times. You're fine.
It's okay. They're right there with Portland as teams who don't give an
It's
F.
hilarious. All of a sudden, people were like, oh, my God, Nate McMillan's a wizard. And it's like, is he? Or did they just, I don't know, have some guys who really stepped up? Crazy.
Or they really hated Lloyd Pierce. I'm still not certain about that situation.
Both? Why not both?
Why not all of the above? Yeah.
But the straight-up line for Portland, when I checked, was 195. It is at 210 now.
Okay, give me a second. I want to see if
this line is doing a lot of this, man.
It's very weird. We're kind of having you're having reverse line movement. You're having the over
spreads,
the money line bet is going up, and you're having the point spreads going down. So that's very interesting.
And it just went to 5 again.
Okay, so there's a lot of action going in and out. So right now, 52% of the bets are coming in on the Spurs. 62% of the money's going on Portland, though.
Wait, did you say 52% of the bets are coming in on the Spurs?
Yeah, and 62% of the money is going on Portland.
Well, that's okay. So a whale bet on Portland.
And I'll tell you right now, the Sharps, the guys who really make their living doing this, they're on Portland. They're on San Antonio. Just keep an eye on it. Portland could win tonight. It's not a guarantee. It's just
everybody's taking the under. It's already up to 216.
Yeah, I'm taking the under.
Oh, excuse me. They're taking the over. Yes.
Because it went up?
Yeah.
I'm still going to take the under. San Antonio plays decent defense. They just held the Wizards to 99 points. Portland without Dame is always a toss-up. I'm with you. They'll play a little better than they did against Detroit, but that doesn't mean they're going to have this explosion. So I'm still going to lean the under, and I'm going to take San Antonio with the points.
Okay. I'm just going to take the over. I'm not going to touch the points on this one. The spread for me is just...
It's an odd number, too.
It is. If you gave me the 4.5, I'd take Portland.
Okay. But if I gave you 5, you take San Antonio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just kind of a general thought before we get out of here. We're going long.
Sure.
But I went through and I looked at the wins at home. Somebody said, hey, the Blazers have actually done really well, as far as keeping opponents under 100 at home. And I was like, have they? And this wasn't to be like Danny Downer. It was just more of a let me take a look. I want to know where this stuff is at. And I'm trying to find the tweet here. I've been way too busy on Twitter today. Good God. But when I looked at it, it turned into the teams they have beat. Actually, I think I had it in a spreadsheet. I did, because I'm a monster. I have spreadsheets for everything.
I bet you do.
So the 5 teams they have beat at home, and it held them to 100 or less. Memphis, Clippers, Lakers, Nuggets, Pistons.
Those are all title contenders. That's amazing defense.
So they beat the Nuggets and held them to 100 when they didn't have Jokic, Murray, or Porter.
Yes.
They beat the Lakers and held them under 100 when they didn't have LeBron or AD.
Yeah.
They beat the Clippers, held them to 92 with the 28th best offense, or 25th best offense in the league.
The Clippers suddenly are not this great team.
No, they're great defensively. They can't score.
But exactly. They don't have any offense.
Yeah, so it kind of makes them a kind of a weird team. Pistons, obviously they can't score. So
it's the Pistons.
The one you have here was Memphis, and this is where it'll be like, oh, you got to give them their credit. I will not give them their credit. Memphis couldn't buy a bleeping bucket.
And also remember Triple J got in foul trouble. He was
and remember
out
he was like
most...
2 for like 14. Remember he couldn't hit him.
Yeah, he kept hitting three. He kept shooting threes and breaking them. Yeah.
And DeAnthony Melton was 0 for 8 in that game. It was just like,
yeah.
I think they ended up shooting like 36% or something. It was just a weird shooting volatility. And that's, I will die on that hill. If you replay that game and you give them those same chances, I bet you they shoot significantly better. So.
Well, we'll see. We'll see when they play again, because I bet Memphis does remember that game.
I don't think it's going to be an issue. Ja should be.
He should be back around there, right?
Yeah, he should be fully back then. When we looked forward at this like a week ago, I was like, it's about around the time we should be back. Anything else weird or strange or different you're looking at this game?
No, not really. I'm kind of curious to watch, because DeJounte's a good athlete. I'm curious to see how that kind of.
This team is maybe the most athletic team in the league, top to bottom.
Well, they have a lot of players. We mentioned this. They're full of role guys that other teams would love to take away. They don't have the guy, but they're kind of an interesting team for Portland defensively. Like, they have a lot of players that can present real challenges for Portland defensively. And, Portland you have to be stepping on the pedal here if you want to stay in this thing. And I know the West is kind of eating itself alive here, but it seems like you're not going to have Dame for 2 weeks. You got some tough games coming up. If you're going to stay in the race, you got to win these games when you're playing the sub 500 teams coming into your building. Even without Dame, you got to find a way to do it. So to watch San Antonio, who's coming in, and it's not a long one, but a 2-game win streak, feeling a little good about themselves. They had a couple days off, maybe a little rusty at the beginning. That's where Portland should be able to pounce.
That's what you're hoping. So we'll get out of here on that, guys. We went a little bit long just because, we talked about some trade stuff and talked about stuff that's not nearly as a bummer as some of the stuff we've had over the last couple of weeks. So I'm trying to find those reprieves when we can get them. You can find us on social media at Danny Murray, at Brandon Sprague, at Jacked Ramsays. If you've got questions, comments, concerns, jackedramsays@gmail.com. You can set your mailbag questions there as well. And I will have the memberships rolled out, I believe, tomorrow. I had a bit of a hiccup trying to work some things out and get it all uploaded and make it viable. So look for that. And then we should have the watch parties scheduled for next week. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, there's one for next week?
Oh, yeah.
Golden State game?
Yep, for sure. And I'm trying to get the other ones, see if we've got any other co-hosts. Otherwise, we'll do them solo.
Okay.
So, other than that, guys, we'll catch you for the post game. If you haven't already, please like, rate, review, subscribe. If you're watching here on YouTube, click subscribe. We appreciate you. Well, if you're watching on replay, please click subscribe. We appreciate you. Again, we like the new ones more. I'm kidding, of course. But seriously. We'll catch you guys for the post game. Take care. Talk soon.